Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. I have another story time for you guys today. Before I get into the story, definitely remember to subscribe, hit that bell notification, and drop any comments of any story ideas or anything like that that you would like for me to do. So this story is the first time I actually went to jail. I don't know if it's a jail, I don't know if it was prison. I remember I think it was called a holding cell after the time. So I'm gonna tell you guys this story, how it happened on that day, because that was the most confusing day of my life, because the whole time I was just trying to get answers and I felt like nobody could give them to me. This was all back in 2008. I had my own place at the time. I was living with my girlfriend, but I think that when this happened, I think we were broken up. I really don't think that we were together. So somebody had knocked on the door. I was sleeping in, it was my day off. So somebody was like really banging at my door. And I'm like, who's banging? So I'm thinking none of my friends are gonna bang at the door like that. So I woke up like, oh my God, it was like boom, boom, boom. Like somebody was trying to break down the door. Anyways, I go and I answer it. Obviously I'm in PJs, I'm just waking up, and I see this cop at my door. And I'm like, can I help you, officer? And he's like, are you Abigail Reyes? And I'm like, yes, I am. And he's like, well, I have a warrant for your arrest. I mean, imagine you waking up from, a day off, trying to relax, some cop is on your door and he says, I have a warrant for your arrest. And I'm like, okay, there's got to be a mistake, because the reason I thought it was a mistake from that moment was because I drive really fast. So there was a long time in my life where I would constantly get stopped by cops, and every time I would get stopped, I would see that the cop would take a long time looking at my stuff. And I'm like, I know I got speeding tickets, but I don't got that many tickets. And the reason that they would take long is because there was another girl with my exact name that there was a warrant out, like she was a fugitive or something like that. So the cop would come to me and he's like, oh, sorry it took a while. It's that, your name with this other girl's names. The cop thought it was me. So then they finally figured out it wasn't me. I would get my regular ticket and I would be on my way. It happened so frequently that literally every time I would get stopped by a cop, I would actually have to tell the cop, I'm like, listen, you're gonna find some stuff, which now that I think about it, I shouldn't have done that, because that probably made me sound even more guilty. Anyways, but I would tell the cop, I'm like, listen, you're probably gonna look some stuff up on me and it's not me. I'm not a fugitive or anything like that. I'm gonna be right here. And the cop would come back and they would be like, oh yeah, there is like a warrant out for your arrest or something like that. But I have no idea to this day who that other Abigail Reyes is. It's not me. So when the cop came to my house, that's what I thought. This whole time, I thought that's what that was. That the girl that's supposed to be me, or the girl with my same name, that's who they thought they were arresting. And I'm like, you know what? Once they figure out that I'm not her, then they're just gonna let me go. I had to say that just because back to this moment, I have a warrant out for your arrest. I'm like, okay, they're talking about that other Abigail chick. They'll figure out it's not me. We'll keep it moving. But no, it was like, no, there's a warrant out for your arrest and I'm here to arrest you. And I'm like, oh, wait, you're serious? And I'm like, is there a mistake? And he's like, there's no mistake. Like, come with me. And I remember thinking, sir, I can't go like this. Like, let me at least get dressed. And I'm very big on like not going out in public in PJs. I was always taught that PJs are not for public. That's like your underwear. So like you wear that to sleep and to your house, not to grocery shop. But that's besides the point. But that's why I didn't want to leave in PJs. So I asked the cop, I was like, can I at least get dressed? Like, can I at least put on something? I was like, sir, this is TMI, but I'm not even in a bra right now. Can I at least put that on? So he did. He was like, do it quickly. So I went, and I got real critical, because I'm like, okay, if he's gonna take me anywhere, I need to at least look decent. You know what I mean? But he did. He let me go. He let me get dressed. And he didn't handcuff me, and he told me, he's like, I'm supposed to handcuff you. I'm not gonna handcuff you. Let's just walk to my car. And I'm like, wow, thank you, okay. I used to live in Kissimmee at the time, and he was taking me all the way to Bartow. That's where I actually was supposed to go. And I remember on the car ride, because, from Kissimmee, the way he was gonna go to Bartow, he was actually gonna pass by my parents' house. I remember telling this cop, I'm like, is there any way that you could take me to my parents' house and I can let them know what's going on, because they're gonna be really worried and I have no other way to be able to get in contact with them. I don't know if I'm gonna be able to call them from jail or anything like that, because I had asked him, where are you taking me? And once he said Bartow, I'm like, oh, he's taking me to jail. He then actually let me go to my parents' house. Like, remember, he let me get dressed. Then he let me go to my parents' house, and I knocked on my parents' door, and I remember that my mom looked so worried. Digo, ¿qué tú haces aquí? And I'm like, mami, hay un policía allá afuera. I told her what happened. My mom and dad got crazy. They were so worried. And I'm like, listen, he just let me come here real quick to let you guys know what happened. And then I'm going to be in Bartow. So I don't know. I don't know what to do from here. So I went back with the cop. I think the cop even was just standing outside waiting for me while I talked to my parents. And then after that, then he just actually proceeded to take me to Bartow. Still, this whole time, he had not put me in handcuffs or anything like that. Along the way, we had to pick up somebody else. I remember there was another woman that we picked up, and her and I were just kind of in the back talking, and I was scared because she looked like a criminal. I was like, oh my God, esta me va a matar. In the back of the car. So I was actually kind of worried. I was like, yeah, she kind of looks like she's been arrested a couple of times. This is the first time this has ever happened to me. I've never been like in trouble like this. So we get to the jail. It is Bartow. I don't know if, again, I don't know if it's a jail or prison, whatever. Don't come at me. Just, it is what it is. You guys know where I'm going with this. So we get there. When we get there, he pulls out his handcuffs and he says, now I have to handcuff you. And he's like, okay. And I'm like, no, just you do what you got to do. But he actually handcuffed me in the front. So when he put those things on, guys, I'm telling you, it was like, I'm like, wow, you really feel like a criminal. I'm just like walking there like this, and I'm like, wow, this is crazy. I never thought in my life I would be in handcuffs, for this reason, like walking into a jail or wherever they're gonna take me right now. And yeah, once the cop let me go, I thanked him and I was like, thank you. He was such a good cop. I mean, think about it. He let me get dressed. He took me to my parents' house. If you watch crime shows and all that stuff, yeah, he wasn't supposed to do any of that. I think that he could have gotten in so much trouble for that, because if I was guilty, I could have just ran off or done something. I don't know. But I don't know. Maybe he had been doing this for so long that he probably felt I was innocent. I don't know, but I don't think he was supposed to do any of that. But if I were to ever run into that cop today, I would want to give him the biggest hug, because what was supposed to be the most scariest moment, he actually made it really easy for me. So definitely, I would love to thank him for that. If somebody watches this story and they're like, oh my God, that was my dad, definitely would like to meet him. So fast forward, I'm inside the Bartow prison or jail or whatever it is. Cops everywhere. I had to do the whole like shebang. I had to get fingerprinted, and I'm like, oh my God, this is like, I really was in there treated like a criminal. Anytime I asked a question about anything, I kept getting yelled at, like, go to the back of the line, shut up and don't talk. And I'm like, oh my God, like, so I just couldn't talk. I'm still trying to figure out, like, listen, I just want some answers. Like, why am I here? Why was there a warrant out for my arrest? Like, I just want to know why I'm here. After I got fingerprinted, then I had to undress and actually get put on the jail clothes or whatever. I think they were orange, I don't know. There is a picture of me, my mugshot. There is. I remember I Googled it one time and I saw it. Oh, and my mugshot, I definitely look like a killer. I look like I killed 4 people in my mugshot because I was so mad and I was so angry and sleepy. There was a whole bunch of emotions, but I was trying to Google it for you guys to actually put it in this video, but it is really hard for me to find it. If you find it, put it in the comments. With the mugshot, you probably think I'm guilty, but when you get to know me, you're like, they thought she shouldn't have been in there. I still don't know why I'm here. So the reason that I'm telling you guys a story like this is because I'm walking you through the day of how lost I was. Like, you guys are hearing this and you're still like, well, why did he even arrest her? The cop didn't know. He couldn't give me answers. I'm in the facility of the place getting fingerprinted. I had to get undressed. They gave me the whole attire and I'm in the line. Again, I'm trying to ask the correction officer, and it was a woman, and I'm like, oh, excuse me, ma'am, I would just like to know why I'm here. Shut up, get in the line. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm like, everybody that I try to ask a question of why I was there, nobody could give me answers. How am I gonna get out of here? I don't have a phone call. There's nothing I can do. I'm just in there so lost, so confused, being treated so badly. It's like, oh my God. I felt so bad for all the people that are in jail and they are innocent. Yes, I do believe that there are innocent people in jail. They really treat you like you're a piece of crap human being. Like, there's no, there's no like, guilt, you're innocent till proven guilty. No, I was guilty the moment they saw me. Like, it was no dito, mamoha. No, there was no like pity on me whatsoever. So they finally put me like in this holding cell. The women in there were women that had committed crimes. There was a lady there, I will never forget, she was there for attempted murder of killing her husband. And I'm like, oh my God. She wanted to kill her husband. I don't know why that was so funny to me, Dito. I was nervous, and when I get nervous, I laugh. And I just kept laughing at all their stories. And I'm just in this little corner like you could tell I was the newbie. I was like, Diablo, aquí me van a matar. They're gonna beat me up. Something's gonna happen in just this little holding cell because they can already tell that I'm fresh meat. A young girl here, I would never forget her. And she's like, oh, what you in here for? And I'm like, oh, I really don't know. And she's like, you don't know? And then like a couple of ladies started like, there was like young girls, and then there was like older ladies. I think this chick was like maybe 21, and she's like, you don't know why you're in here? I'm like, I really don't know. Like, this cop just came to my house, he arrested me, but I have no idea why I'm here. And she's like, so you really don't know? And I'm like, no, I really don't. And she's like, well, who's your PO? And I'm like, what's a PO? And then she's like, wow, you really knew. She's like, parole officer. I was like, no, I don't have one of those. I don't even know. And then another girl was like, do you have a lawyer? And I'm like, I don't have a lawyer. I don't have anything. I don't even know why I'm here. I was like, should I get a lawyer? I don't know what's going on. So I think they all kind of felt bad for me. Like, they were like, oh, she's in jail or this holding cell, and she has no idea why. Really had no idea why. Like, so many hours had gone by. Like, I think like 3 hours had gone by, and I still had no idea why I was even in there. So I'm with the 21-year-old, and the 21-year-old, I remember she was there for drugs, a whole bunch of stuff that had to do with drugs, and she was so young. I kept thinking like, this chick is so young. And then she's like, I'm in here all the time. And I'm like, that's not something to be proud of, you know? But I can tell that this is all she knew. I remember there was one for attempted murder for her husband. The other ones I don't remember. Oh, and then there was this one lady that was there for writing bad checks. This lady used to go to church, which was so funny because she worked for a church. I don't know what church it was. And then she said that she was in there for fraud. And mind you, she's in jail. And then she's like, yep, the devil is a liar because, you know, something. And in my mind, I'm like, the devil's not a liar. You're the one that's writing the bad checks. But of course, I'm not going to say that because I don't want to get killed in jail by the bad writing check lady. Remember the check lady, the attempted murder, and the drug chick. Those girls, and then there was a huge toilet in the middle, probably about 15 of us in there, and I'm just like, well, I have no pen, no paper, I can't even like spend time to like maybe draw or write or something. So I'm just there, just sitting down the whole time, bored out of my mind, scared out of my mind, and just so confused because I still don't know why I'm even there. I can't get over the whole bathroom thing. And just so you guys know, I didn't go to the bathroom in my apartment. So all this was happening around, I think that by the time the cop got to my house, I think it was like 11 o'clock in the morning. So 11 o'clock, I think that it was already 2 or 3 in the afternoon by this time. I had yet to use the bathroom, and if you know me, I'm not gonna use the bathroom there. First of all, I was living at the time with my girlfriend. I think we had broken up, but I was living with my girlfriend. I didn't even get undressed in front of her. And I had to get undressed in front of all these strange women or whatever. That was the most uncomfortable, most humiliating thing that ever happened to me in my life. Because I'm like, I had to wear all this stuff, and oh my god, and the underwears were like this big. You're probably a size large. And they were like, I mean, I would probably go parachuting with the underwears that they gave me. I'm like, diablo que exagera con esto. But I had to wear them. They were like granny panties. I had to wear those. I had to wear like this really weird bra. I don't know, it was just really, just the whole situation of it was just very humiliating. I had to wear their attire, get undressed, and I'm like, all right, I already went through that. I'm not using the bathroom here. So I'm like, I don't know what's gonna happen. I'm probably gonna pee on myself, but I'm not gonna use the bathroom in front of all these women. But they all just sat there one by one, would use the bathroom. There was even one girl, I mean, this is TMI, but just to show you how real it was a girl that actually went number 2, and she was just there like, and I'm just like, is everybody watching this? Like, we're all just really just watching this girl do number 2. Like, this is just, that's how crazy it is that you can't think like, no, tú sabes. Like, I would never survive in prison. Like, I really just wouldn't be. This is just not for me, especially when you're as shy and timid as I am and so reserved when it comes to all this stuff. I'm like, es que yo voy a morir aquí, yo no puedo estar aquí. This is not the life for me. The bathroom was there, and then all of a sudden, like, they finally decided to feed us, and it was like these really weird looking sandwiches. And I think it was like a juice box or something. I'm not picky with food. If you know me, you know that I will eat whatever. I had heard throughout the years all these, you know, prison food jokes and jail food jokes, and I'm just like, I don't want to eat that sandwich. And I think it was a bologna sandwich, and I'm like, I've heard things about bologna sandwiches. I really don't want to eat that. But I cannot use the bathroom. That's cool. I'm not going to use the bathroom, but I actually was hungry, and I'm like, I can't believe I'm going to eat this. The sandwich comes in like a saran wrap and you're just like, and I'm like, whew, like, you really just you don't want to take the bite, but like I really was so hungry because like by this time so many hours had gone by. I hadn't used the bathroom, no phone calls, no nothing. I don't know what's going on outside, and I'm just like, I have to eat. Like, I don't know if it was bologna or peanut butter, but I think it was bologna. I think it was a bologna sandwich, and I'm just like, lo que nunca, because I'm not a picky eater. So the fact that I was like I really didn't want to eat the sandwich, but I had to. I was like, Señor, like, I don't like wasting food, and I don't like saying mean things about food because other people would have killed for that bologna sandwich. You know what I mean? That's always been very like, listen, let's just eat whatever. But there, for the first time in my life, I'm like, yo, I really didn't want to eat this sandwich. Like, se veía como que it just looks so gross to me, and I don't know who prepared it. It is what it is. I ate the sandwich and I drank whatever juice or milk or whatever they gave us. At this point, my sister was already contacted by my parents. We were working at the same job. We were both working at Metro. She told my boss what happened, and my boss actually advanced me my paycheck for the bail money, because to bail me out, it was $500. So while I'm in the holding cell, this is all what's going on with my family. They're trying to just do their best to get me out of there as fast as possible. But we all know that as fast as possible is just gonna take hours and hours and hours. At one point, after I ate the sandwich, I'm just kind of there, just, you know, the women are talking, they're doing their thing, and one of the girls she actually stands, because where we were at was kind of like a bench, and she was standing on one of the benches and she could see outside, and I'm like, could I stand on there? I just kind of wanted to see outside. It was crazy. I just wanted to at least look through a window, because you're kind of just blocked in there, and the only little window was probably about this big, and it was by the door. So I had to like ask the girl there if I can just sit, if I can at least see something. And I remember when I stood up, I just was seeing everybody outside, and I remember going like that, and I'm like, this is the door that I came in through. So I'm like, literally my freedom is like right out that window. It's about 30 steps away for me to just get out of here and go see the world again. I remember this lady here was like, you smell good, and I'm like, oh, thank you. She's like, what is that? And I'm like, and I remember it was Roxy. I will never forget this perfume. And I'm like, oh, I'm wearing Roxy. She's like, where did you get it? I'm like, oh, I had gone to Puerto Rico. I don't know where they sell it. I just know that I got it in Puerto Rico. And she's like, oh, so you Puerto Rican? I'm like, yeah. She's like, well, you smell good. And I'm like, thank you. Which is so funny that I'm so big on hygiene and smell that I'm like, wow, even in jail, I got told that I smelled good. So, you know, just throwing that in there. But even in jail, I was smelling good. Every now and then they would take girls out or women out, and they would say that they were going to go somewhere else. And I think that they were getting transported to like the actual jail or prison. I don't know what's the difference between jail or prison, but whatever, you know what I mean. You were actually going to be behind bars. So here we're just in like this really huge room, but there was no bars. It was just like a door. So that's why we couldn't see outside. I got scared because I'm like, wow, so this is already bad as it is. Imagine the other side, and I don't want to see the other side. But God was with me, because oh my God, they kept skipping me. They kept like calling the other women, and little by little, it was just only a few of us left. I think there was only like 4 of us left at one point. And I'm like, okay, so we're gonna be the last bunch that they're gonna take to the other place, like, you know, the actual jail, or I'm just gonna keep saying jail, but you know what I mean. But it was really, really late. Somebody comes in with like a clipboard and they're like, Reyes, you know, and I'm like, oh my God. And I thought it was gonna be, that's it, I'm gonna be, you know, taken to the other place. And they're like, well, your bail is here, so we're gonna give you your stuff and you're gonna be able to just go home. And I'm like, oh my God. Like, I started to cry. I was like, okay, finally, because they kept all my belongings, on my phone, everything. They gave me back my phone, they gave me everything. And then I started to get dressed, and by this time, guys, it was already like midnight. So again, I was taken in from my apartment around 11 o'clock in the morning. It's about midnight at night. From 11 o'clock in the morning to midnight at night, I had still not even used the bathroom, because I said I wasn't going to use the bathroom in that place. And I didn't. So yo estaba like I was exploding. So I'm like, the first thing I'm gonna do is go to the bathroom. And I remember like when I left and they opened like those gates. I mean, it's crazy. Like you really just, you open the gates and you're like, okay, you can go. And I remember seeing my family. I'm like, oh my God. Like it was just one of those things, like, you know, like a slow motion, like, oh my God. Like a bad sad music starts playing in the background. Like you just, oh my God. And I mean, like everybody was crying. I was crying. And I'm like, oh my God. Like I never ever, like it really woke me up. I'm like, I never ever want to do anything in my life that requires for this to be my life, because let me tell you, that was just what, like 12 hours, 13 hours that I was there. And I just, that's it. I'm like, I can never, I'm not made for prison. I'm not made for jail. Like, I'm not a criminal. I'm not somebody that could ever be there. Like, I felt bad for just everyone in there that just got treated, even the people that did do stuff. I'm not saying anything like, oh, you could be a murderer and get, no, it was just the fact that you really do get treated like a whole different type of human when you're in there. Like, there's no respect, there's no regard, there's no like, listen, she's a woman. No, they don't care if you're a girl, they don't care if you're a man. It's just like nobody cares about you. There's no love. Like, if you ever want to go to a place that you feel hated, just go to jail for one day. That's how I felt. And my family was like, Dito, tú tienes hambre, que tú quieres ir? And I was like, guys, really, really take me to a bathroom. Like, I really have to go to the bathroom. And my mom was like, tú no usaste el baño. I was like, I couldn't. It was in front of everybody. That's how shy I am. They took me to some gas station. I went to the bathroom there, got a couple of chips. I think they took me to McDonald's, and I finally got her like an actual meal. Anyways, all of this, and I still don't know why I was in there. There was bail money. There was time that I was in there. I was in there for about 13 hours. No one gave me answers. Like, so this whole time, I still don't know why I'm in there. Like I said, there was bail money paid, so many things. And I'm just like, why was I in there? Like, I just don't get it. So they did give me, I remember that there was a sheet of paper and they told me that I had to go before a judge in this set date. So I ended up going to the judge on that set date. And again, I'm going before a judge to explain myself, and I have no idea why or what I'm even gonna say to the judge. I went by myself. I had no lawyer, no nothing. It was just, it just gave me a date, and I went before a judge. So I'm in there, and I remember that they're just calling names, all these people, whatever, and all of a sudden, they call my name, Abigail Reyes, and I'm like, okay, and I go before the judge, and the judge is like, okay, why are you here? And I'm like, Your Honor, I don't even know why I'm here. And he's like, you don't know why you're here? I was like, I recently just got put into a holding cell. They said that there was a warrant for my arrest, and I was so scared. I didn't even know how to talk to a judge because I had never talked to a judge before. And I'm just like, Your Honor, with all due respect, I have no idea why I'm here. I don't know, but whatever it is, I'm innocent. I don't know what it is. I don't know why I'm here. And he's looking through all his papers. And then he's like, you don't know why you're here? I was like, no, I really, really don't. And he's like, well, you had a judgment against you. And I'm like, what's a judgment? And he's like, you don't know what a judgment is? And I'm like, again, Your Honor, with all due respect, I don't know what that is. Again, I still don't know why I'm here. He's like, well, you had a letter sent to you at your home, XYZ date, and it said that you were supposed to come before a judge. And if you didn't come before a judge, you would actually get arrested. And I'm like, Your Honor, again, and I'm just like this, with all due respect, I never got that letter. I have no idea what you're talking about, with all due respect. Like, I was just like, I don't want to say anything like, he's crazy. I'm just like, dude, I just don't know what in the world you're talking about, because I don't know what a judgment is. I don't know what letter you're talking about. I never received a letter talking about I'm supposed to come before a judge. So then he's like looking through the papers, and then he's like, do you know Bally's Total Fitness? And I'm like, when he said Bally's Total Fitness, I'm like, you have got to be kidding me right now. Because I remember that Bally's Total Fitness was this gym that I had signed up for years before, and it was all the way in Cimarron in Orlando, and I live all the way in Haines City. Why did I have a gym all the way in Cimarron? Because I used to work in Cimarron, but I don't work in Cimarron anymore. I ended up finding a job in Haines City. So why would I need a gym an hour and something away? So when I canceled the membership, apparently I was under contract, which that I knew, but I was under the impression that I could cancel the contract for distance, which I told Bally's. I'm like, listen, I'm not gonna, your contract says that I can cancel it based on distance, and you're just way too far from Haines City. So then the guy was like, oh, well, there's another one. I think there was one in Kissimmee. And he said that I guess it didn't meet the criteria of the distance to be able to cancel the contract, because the plan that I was on was I can go to any gym, and that gym was closer to me. So that, I guess, nullified that part of the contract. So therefore, Bally's couldn't cancel it for me. It was like 30, I think it was like 30 or 40 bucks a month. And I'm like, well, what happens if I don't pay it? And then he's like, well, you know, the creditors could come after you and so forth. And I'm just like, man, I have good credit, but this is just such an inconvenience. And this is me years before. And I'm like, well, forget it. I'm not going to pay it. 3 or 4 years, Bally's was trying to get me to pay that contract. And I think it was like $800 balance to like a $2,000 and something balance within the time, because I guess the lawyer fees or whatever. I had a judgment because of Bally's Total Fitness. So Bally's Total Fitness had sent out this thing where I had to come before a judge, I guess, to like work out a debt solution or something. And every time I saw those letters, I would rip it up like, oh, I'm not paying them. I never knew that they actually sent me a document stating that I had to go before an actual judge, because I would just rip up the letters all the time. In my mind, I'm like, well, I just would assume that if a lawyer or important letter would have looked different, I guess in a different envelope, or it would have said something about lawyers. But if it kept saying the thing of Bally's, I'm like, I'm just gonna rip them up. So it was a big mistake on my end for me to keep ripping up those letters. So that's what it was. So it all hit me there, and I'm just like, oh my God, I probably got one of the letters, but I probably ripped it up because it was Bally's, and I completely missed that I had to go before the judge. So I'm just like, I don't think I should say this to this judge, because that's probably gonna make me look even worse, like very irresponsible. So I just kept saying I never got the letter, and I'm like, oh my God, I'm lying to a judge. What if like I get arrested for that? So then he's like, so you are unaware that you had to go before a judge? And I'm like, Your Honor, I had no idea. And then I'm like, let me soften this up. And I'm like, if they sent a letter to my house and it was from Bally's, being that I knew I was in debt with them and I wasn't going to pay the debt, I probably ripped up the letter not knowing what I had ripped up. That's the most honest I can be right now, Your Honor. And he looked at me like, damn, she's stupid. Like that's the face that he gave me, because he was like, all right, okay, let me try to help this girl out. And he did. He was actually a very good judge, and I didn't know that judges had phones next to them, so he ended up calling, like, I don't know, the lawyer people that I needed to go before that day, because I still hadn't figured out why I was still in front of him. So he calls the offices, the lawyer offices of the whole Bally's Total Fitness, the people that took on that debt. And they were like, listen, Ms. Reyes is here, and she now is aware that she was supposed to come before a judge. What's the solution? How can we help her? And this is the judge really on the phone making this call. And I'm like, I didn't know judges can do that. And the lawyer people from Bally's Total Fitness, they were telling me, well, you know, the bail money that she used for the $500 that she used for bail money, she can actually use it to help her out. It'll actually reduce her debt. It's like $2,000 debt. It could reduce it. The judge tells the guy, no, that's not true. You know, you can't use the $500 for that. That's bail money. Something like that. And the guy on the phone was like, actually, Your Honor, under code section, blah, 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 I don't know, lawyer talk. He's like, she can. And we want the $500 for us to, but we can actually use it. That's actually to her benefit, Your Honor. And he's like, okay, well, he's like, I had never heard of that before, but if you can do that, that's okay. He's like, Ms. Reyes, are you okay with that? And I'm like, yeah, anything to reduce the debt, that's great. So then he was like, well, what is something that you could do every month to pay this debt? And I'm like, oh, so now I know why I'm before this judge. I guess it was to settle whatever debt I was in, which again, it was like 2,000 something. Now minus the 500, it was like 1,900 or whatever. I remember it was still a little high. It was like 1,800 bucks. And the judge was like, how much can you pay every month comfortably so you can just settle this? And I'm like, I don't know, $25. That was the first thing that came to my head. And he's like, okay. He's like, are you? And then the judge was talking to the lawyer, and he's like, are you guys okay with that? And the guy was like, yeah, we'll take the $25 a month. And the judge was like, okay, so take the bail money, $500, reduce it from the debt. Ms. Reyes is gonna pay $25 every month until the debt is cleared, and this has been adjourned. And he's like, next case. And I'm like, oh, so I was like, I'm good. And I'm looking at him, and I'm like, thank you. And then he's like, and I'm just like, okay. So I ended up having to call the lawyer people, and I'm like, hey, so am I gonna go to jail again? Am I gonna get arrested? He's like, no. He's like, that you went before the judge, you followed all the rules. Now just pay $25 a month, and we're good. We won't bother you ever again. And I did. I finally paid that debt, and they took it off my credit or whatever. It actually got expunged off my background. So like if I actually applied some type of corporate job or whatever, this situation has never stopped me from getting a really good job because it was expunged. I just couldn't believe that you can actually go to jail for a debt. I'm like, I mean, that would be everybody going to jail. It was never for the dead. I went to jail, or the holding. So I was arrested, just put it this way. I was arrested because I got a letter, a judgment letter, that said that I was supposed to go before a judge. That was probably to do what I just did with that judge. And since I didn't go, the letter specifically said, you know, in no appearance, you know, she would get arrested. And I saw the letter later on, and it did say that. And I was like, oh man, if I would have read that, of course I would have came before the judge. So that's why they actually took me in. So yeah, if you were expecting something crazy, maybe, you know, thinking why I went to jail, it wasn't it. This was the lamest, most bogus reason why somebody can go to jail. But really, 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 it opened my eyes. I don't know how people do it. Oh, you know, 30 years and he came out, 30 years she came out. I don't know how people do it. I think that especially if you're innocent and you were in jail for 15, 16, 20 years, it's a big portion of your life. So the moral of the story is open your mail. No, I'm just kidding. No. No, it's not that. If you're watching this video, if you're young, you know, especially for the young minded that you want to be cool and, oh, my friend wants me to do this and maybe I can go steal a car or, you know, sell this. No, just let me tell you, that is the worst experience in my life. And if you just stay in school, don't do drugs, do good things, make good choices, you know, hang out with people that don't want you to end up in jail, avoid gangs, avoid all that stuff, because it is just not, it's not for, I mean, the way you get treated, I think animals get treated better than people in prison. It's just, it's not something good. Not only that, it actually affects your whole family. Like, you think you're the only person that's in jail, but no, your whole family goes with you too. You know what I mean? Like, we all suffered, you know, when somebody's there, knowing like, how is my kid gonna sleep? How is he being treated? How is she being treated? It's just, make good choices, guys. Like, seriously, avoid anything that's gonna ever take you to that horrible place, because even the little holding cell that I was in, it was like hell on earth. But anyways, guys, thank you for listening. That was it, guys. That was my story time today. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you guys want to hear more crazy stories like this, definitely drop it in the comments. Hit that subscribe button. Definitely turn on that bell notification. But anyways, that was it, guys. Take care.